1680, this is Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza, the behind-the-scenes story of the business shakers and movers in the Valley and beyond. And now, here's your host, Lance Cardoza.
Good morning, everybody. What a brisk, nice, beautiful morning here in the Valley. Here at Talk Radio 1680 KGED. I bring you another edition of Business Leaders Live, as we do every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., and you can catch this episode and past episodes by going to lancecardoza.com. That's LanceCardoza.com. In studio this week, I have Patrick Moody. How are you doing, Patrick? Thank you for being on the show.
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So you're with Barsamian and Moody.
Exactly.
Barsamian and Moody, and I got the name right.
Pretty
I've been
close.
Rehearsing it.
Pretty
I
close.
got close?
Yeah, pretty
close.
Yeah, pretty close.
And we were talking about before the show, I know Lindsay.
Yes.
And Lindsay, the daughter of your partner.
Ron Barsamian.
Ron.
His
So
eldest daughter.
His eldest daughter. So Lindsay, there's a little quick shout out for you here right on the Talk Radio 1680 KGD. Yeah, we're talking about labor and employment law updates for 2020, which if you're a business owner in California, you're sort of shaking in your boots a little bit, and you've got a lot to think about.
There's a lot out there. Yeah, you have to really be paying attention.
So with your firm, and you largely, we talked just before we're getting ready to go live here on Facebook Live, which you can catch us at Talk Radio 1680 KGED, or if you're listening right here on the radio, Patrick and I were talking about agriculture as a large number of your clients.
Yes.
You've been in the business almost nearly 30 years yourself.
Yep.
And let's talk a little bit about, you grew up in the Midwest. I understand you went to school. You bounced all over. You experienced the whole country.
I've been all over the place. Born in the Midwest in rural Ohio, farm country, corn and soybeans and wheat and the whole deal like that, dairies. When I was in high school, my family moved from there to Key West, Florida.
Oh,
which is a big difference.
A big difference.
Yeah, I went from rural Ohio to an island, and I finished high school there, and that was home base. I went to the University of Florida, and came to California on vacation after college, and was in San Diego, and thought this is a really nice place, and so I stayed.
And you stayed in San Diego.
Stayed in San Diego, yeah, and eventually went to law school there, and then after law school, I came to Fresno for a job, and so I've been here for, like I say, almost 30 years.
Almost 30 years, and working in labor law.
Exactly. Yeah.
Labor law.
Same group the entire time.
So you've seen a lot of change here in California over those past almost 30 years.
A lot of change. Things have really, really changed, in particularly in terms of employment and labor law and the business environment. And there's just been a lot of change in 30 years.
So Patrick, and you seem like a very young guy. That you're almost 30 years in this business. How old were you when you started the firm?
I was sort of in my middle 20s when I got there, and so I started in January of '92, and I was probably 25 or 26 years old then. So I'm 55 now.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And
long time.
Yeah, long time. So, but you've been able to experience a lot of that change.
Yes.
And what's especially in the industry that you service mostly is agriculture.
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of change, not only in their industry, but labor law and everything in between.
Yeah. There's tons of response from the business community and the owners of ag operations to the various laws that come into play and the regulations that come into play. And so they're constantly having to evolve and update and adapt to the changing environment that they're dealing with in terms of, like I said, the regulations and laws. So there's always something they're trying to do. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of those people who have the ability to sort of pick up and leave the state. Some have. I've had dairy clients that have loaded their cows into trailers and taken them out of state. And so we've seen, really sort of a concentration in those people who can't do that. You got your trees and your vines, and you can't pick up your land and take it somewhere, right? So those
as much
guys
as sometimes they want to.
There's guys I've talked to that would like to pick up their fields and go somewhere, but they're here, and so they're having to adapt and deal with these laws that are just constantly getting pumped out of Sacramento, and the regulations that are coming out of these different agencies. And so it's a struggle for them to adapt and keep going.
And that's all business in our great state. I love California. I love it. I was raised here, and you came out on vacation and you got to experience God's country down in San Diego and thought, wow. And then, California really truly is the Golden State. we're known for gold back in the day. Today, I had Ryan Jacobson on the Farm Bureau here last week. We talked about the blue gold.
Right.
So the new gold of California water. And so working with ag, I mean, you really, it's the salt of the earth when you're dealing with a farmer.
Absolutely.
And that's out there working it and being able to continue to put us on the map to be the breadbasket of the world and provide
Absolutely.
the world's food. But there are those challenges, and not only in agriculture, any business in the state of California that has a rough challenge. There are its benefits being here in the beautiful state, but at the same time, we've made it very hard for business, and companies like yours will be able to help bring those businesses through that process.
That's what we do. We try and shepherd people through the pitfalls and the tribulations of the various laws and regulations and the litigation that's out there, and the lack of workers in agriculture. There's a finite number of people who are willing to do that work. It's very hard work, obviously, and you're out in the sun and it's hot and it's very, very difficult work, and it takes a special kind of person to be able to do that work, for season after season after season. And I've got clients that are just so appreciative of the people who are willing to do that. If they're not willing to do that, you and I don't get the produce that we want and the salads that we want and the fruits that we want. It's the
rest of the world
right,
doesn't get it.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't get it either. So,
yeah.
It's we're sort of blessed to have the fertile land that we've got here and the climate that we've got here to be able to produce all that. And it really helps to have those people too. And that's a struggle they deal with as well, as getting those people who are willing to do that very backbreaking hard work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when Patrick, you went to school in Florida, you made your way out to San Diego, and you experienced that San Diego for the very first time. When you went to Florida from the Midwest, what made you want to get into this line of work? Was it in Florida you started law school?
Yeah, I actually started law school in San Diego.
Okay.
But as a kid, I always said I wanted to be a lawyer when I grew up. So everybody asks you as your kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always said I wanted to be a lawyer. It was interesting. I didn't know any lawyers. There were no lawyers in my family, and I didn't really know what lawyers did.
Yeah.
I saw,
you saw it on TV,
on
maybe?
TV, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ironside or whatever it might
Perry
have been
Mason.
back in Perry Mason, right? And so I always knew I wanted to go into being an attorney, and so going to school in San Diego, and then had this opportunity to come to Fresno and get into this line of work. And it was what I wanted to do. As a kid, I didn't know exactly what it was called. I didn't know what labor and employment law was.
Yeah.
And so now I learned it, and I fell into it. And it's what I wanted to do all along. It's really a great area of the law. There's just constant challenges, and you deal with great people, and so it's very rewarding work.
The rewarding work, and that's what I was thinking, that you're being able to help them through. They just want to do business.
Right.
They want to do more business, and a lot of times they get frustrated, and that's where we lose businesses out of this state because of that frustration and that lack of support. But with Barsamian and Moody, you try to make that easier for your clients.
We do.
And there's a lot of new regulations in 2020.
Very
and
many.
A lot of them I don't pretend to know, and I know that you probably have a lot of the farmers that are confused with some of it, and they're trying to look for direction. If you're listening here on the radio, on Talk Radio 1680 KGED, or you're on the Facebook Live, you're interested too. One of the biggest hot topics is minimum wage increase.
Yes.
And making it very hard for all businesses, but at the same time, increasing the wages for our employees too. And how do we figure this all out? And it was January 1st, correct?
Yeah, well, we're in a sort of tiered increase in the state minimum wage, going to $15 an hour for everybody. There's a two-tier system, whether you're a large employer or whether you're a small employer, and they've defined that as 26 or more employees as a large employer and 25 or fewer employees as a small employer. And the small employers are having a little longer time to reach that $15 an hour, but they're currently at $12 an hour for a small employer and $13 for a large employer. Over the next 2 years, the large employers will each take a $1 jump, January 1 of next year, January 1 of the following year. And so they'll be up at $15 per hour. And then the smaller employers are a little bit behind there, so they've got a little longer before they get there. But within the next 3 or 4 years, everybody's going to be at $15 an hour, and that's going to be a big change in California employment.
A big change for the business owners.
Exactly.
And And also at the same time, I think it helps people that are out there, hardworking people and people that are trying to get things done. But at the same time, we have to think about it. We want those businesses to stay here in California, and we all have to make it work together. But Barsamian and Moody, you'll be able to help those companies through that. We'll be right back with more Business Leaders Live. I'm sitting here with Patrick Moody. We're going to talk about labor law and some of those myths you might know. We're going to dispel them right here on Business Leaders Live. I think a lot of times people hear the scary stuff and they think, I'll switch it up with this one here. I feel these mics are they're good for the shock jock that's yelling.
I was getting a lot of crackling and whatnot. Yeah.
That's why.
Oh, no worries.
We're good. Yeah. I boosted as much as I could. Yeah. And then this that's what I'm saying. This works a lot better for me. Am I okay with this? I'm fine. Okay, good.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of crackling and whatnot. Yeah. Sort of going in and out. I could hear it.
Are you going to switch to the headset?
Well, no. Yeah. Him? Yeah.
Okay. So how do you want to do that? Right here. Okay. Oh, got it. You do it. Oh, the button's on this side. Well, we're good. Hello, Facebook. You get to see the behind the scenes. The magic happens. Here we go. You're going to be like Al Michaels. You got a headset. There you go. Let's do a check on audio. Can you check with his audio? Make sure you're good. Oh, you're
check.
Just talk normal.
Can you hear me? Okay, is that good? We're good. Yeah, it sounds better in the headset.
Better in the headset too.
Yeah.
Okay, you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good. We're back.
You want to use the shirt mic, or are you playing that?
No, I'm good. If I sound okay, I'm fine. In future, sure.
We're good. All right.
Yeah, it's much better.
It sounds a lot better to me.
I'm always worried about these. So when we come back, we'll hit on that sort of flashback where we were on minimum wage, and again how that works.
Yeah.
As it gradually you work into that. So I'll bring it up one more time. So if someone just joined us.
Yeah.
And then we'll
go from there over time.
Yeah. Then we can go into other areas too. We can do the wage for 14. Wage order 14.
Wage order 14. That overtime is a biggie.
You are listening to Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza, the behind-the-scenes story of the business shakers and movers in the Valley and beyond. Once again, here's Lance Cardoza.
Welcome back, everybody. I have Patrick Moody in studio. And Patrick, you've been almost 30 years working in labor law, and you found yourself going to school in Florida. You came out to the beautiful San Diego, grew up in the Midwest.
Right.
And you would have thought you'd have been a farmer.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But you're now helping farmers get through the process of the legal ramifications of doing business here in California. And in 2020, there's many laws that are a little confusing to people. They hear the January 1, minimum wage is going up to $15, and everybody about has a heart attack.
Right.
Like, how am I going to be able to stay in business? What do I do? But there's certain rules and regulations on the size of business, under 25 or over 25,
right,
and how soon you need to ramp up to that. And we briefly touched on that before the commercial break, but Patrick Moody in studios right now here on Business Leaders Live. Tell us again how that works. So if you're below 25 threshold of employees.
Right. So they've divvied it up between large employers and small employers, and they define that as 26 and up is large and 25 and fewer employees is a small employer. And so you're on a different track as to when you're meeting that $15 per hour minimum. And so for right now, as of January 1 of this year, it's $13 per hour for large employers and $12 an hour for small employers. It's going up $1 again next January 1 for large employers. The year after that, it'll go to $15 per hour for large employers. So January 1 of 2022, large employers are at $15 an hour.
Does that mean if you're a small employer at 12, so next year, January 1, you'd be at 13?
13.
So it's an hour
14,
increase
then
each.
15. So
Got it.
they've got a little longer time before they have to hit the $15 per hour. And that's a really big impact on the bottom line of business in California.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously we were at $10 an hour a couple of years ago, and now we're going to be at 15 in just a short amount of time, and it's hard for business to be able to recoup that. You can only raise your prices so much, and so it's difficult to get to that.
Pass that on to the consumer.
It's very difficult.
You mentioned during the commercial break, and we were talking about, and I see it all the time, is when you first started in labor law, you had a lot of manufacturing companies that you represented.
We did.
A lot of them are gone.
Lots. I started again in early 1992, and our firm represented. We've always been sort of an ag-centric firm. My partner came out of Western Growers Association, and so we've always sort of been ag-centric. But we did have a lot of non-ag clients that made various things, and all of our clients who made things have picked up and left the state to better business environments. I've got one client now that's a manufacturer in California, and they've actually got a plant now in Nevada, and they're slowly but surely moving to Nevada. So those people who can pick up and go, lots of them have.
Yeah. Very frustrating.
And this is one of the reasons. The federal minimum wage is $7.25, and so lots of states don't have state employment law, minimum wage laws. A lot of these laws that we have in California, lots of states don't have those, and so there lots of people are moving to better business environment for them.
And you mentioned too with ag businesses too, a lot of them probably would fled the state if they could, but a lot of them, they can't pack up the dirt and the trees and everything else. But dairy farmers have packed up the cows, and
I've certainly had dairy cows dairy clients pick up their cows and leave the state. And I've talked to lots of people who farming is one of those unique industries where it's generational. Dad was a farmer, mom was a farmer, my grandparents were farmers, my great grandparents were farmers. It's generational, and I've talked to lots of clients who've been involved in dealing with the difficult business environment we have in California, and saying, why am I still doing this? Is it time to sell out? Is it time to sell to a developer who's going to put in housing and take out my family farm that I've been farming for 5 generations, kind of thing? And I talk to people about that all the time, and it's a big issue.
It's a legacy thing too. As a farmer, that's where maybe grandpa or great grandpa planted his flag and said, I'm a farmer. And then you're years down the line carrying that legacy. Where do you go next? And that's very challenging and frustrating.
It is.
And even like you said, when they want to try to relocate into a different state, they're leaving that. It's almost the motherland. It's where it all started.
Exactly.
And that's hard to do. Yeah. And to sell it to a development to put homes, very hard to do.
Yeah.
So very frustrating. So, and on top of all that, then you have employment laws that you have to deal with, and minimum wage increase. Talk to me about, there's wage order 14, and what that means for ag companies.
So the state has developed a series of wage orders that apply to different industries. So you have a transportation industry. There's a movie production industry wage order. There happens to be an agricultural occupation wage order, which is wage order 14. So if you're a farmer, wage order 14 is important to you, because that sets forth lots of the basic day-to-day rules that you got to follow in terms of hours of work, rest breaks, overtime, all those kinds of things that you have to deal with on just a day-to-day basis, and it's specifically geared to agriculture. And one of the big things that was always distinct for wage order 14 from the other wage orders was that wage order 14 did not have the same overtime rules. So all of the other wage orders except wage order 14, you have daily overtime after 8 hours and weekly overtime after 40 hours in the work week. Wage order 14 was always unique in that it had a daily 10-hour overtime rule. There wasn't a corresponding weekly overtime rule. Now, there's a special rule for the 7th consecutive day in a work week that applies to all the wage orders. The 7th consecutive day is always overtime. But agriculture had this exemption from the 8 and 40 rule, and had this 10-hour overtime, daily overtime rule. And a couple of years ago, there was a new law signed where they've changed to now Wage Order 14, and it's slowly creeping down the daily overtime. There's now daily overtime and weekly overtime if you're a large employer, and it uses that same definition we talked about in terms of minimum wage, 26 and above for large employer, 25 and lower for small employer. And we've started implementing daily and weekly overtime for large employers so far. So right now, for this year, if you're a large employer, you pay overtime after 9 hours in a day or 50 hours in a work week. If you're a small employer, you don't have that. You still have your 10-hour daily overtime. There's no weekly overtime. But as of when we get to January 1 of 2025, everybody will be at 8 and 40. And that's going to have a huge impact in agriculture.
So even small businesses too.
Yes.
Because at first when I heard it, it was trying to take it easier on the smaller business, but now you have to play with the big boys without the big boy revenues. Right. But you still have to play in the same sandbox.
You're going to have that. You're going to be at the same $15 an hour minimum wage, and you're going to have the same overtime of 8 hours per day and 40 hours per week. And as everybody in California knows who has any inkling of what goes on in agriculture, particularly in harvest time, it's not an 8-hour day and a 40-hour work week. You're working long hours, long days. And, sometimes you're working 7 days a week, certainly 6 days a week during harvest, employees are working. And so when you combine the increase in the $15 per hour minimum wage to the reduced number of hours before you have to pay overtime, that's going to be a sea change for agriculture. And we hit the 8-hour day, 40-hour week for large employers January 1 of 2022. And so we're really going to see how
that's right around the corner.
That's right around the corner.
Right around the corner for a business.
Less than 2 years. And
so what do you, if you're a business and this is really where it's eye-opening, because you see someone that's listening on the radio and they work in the workforce and they think, yes, this is great. But at the same time, businesses need to exist so you have a possibility of employment.
Right.
And we don't need businesses to sell off their property and move, or decide to take a government job and just not be a business owner anymore and do something different. And that's why I tell people all the time, your vote matters, and you need to voice your opinion, especially as business owners. We get so business oriented. We're so stuck in the rut of working in our business. A lot of times we don't get a chance to work on our business and outside the walls of our business to influence our politicians and our politicals on what really is impacting your business and where you need help. Because a lot of times they're making these policy decisions, they're making decisions that sometimes aren't good for business. It might be good business for the state, but at the same time, in the repercussion, the ripple effect it causes could be very detrimental to employment.
Yeah, I see a lot of these things coming from there's sort of this small group of people that write a lot of bills, and so you see a lot of the same legislator writing bill after bill after bill that affect this. And when you look into their background, they've never owned a business, they've never had employees, they've never had to budget, they've never had to comply with minimum wage or overtime, and so they don't understand the impact. They're just looking at, hey, it would be great if everybody made $15 an hour. Well, yeah, that would be great, but is that really reasonable? It would be great if everybody got overtime after 8 hours a day and 40 hours of work, but is it truly feasible to do that?
Well, it'd be like saying this peach is $2, but wouldn't it be great to charge $12?
Yeah, sure, it would be great.
Because that's what we're going to end up doing. And then at that point, do you think the peach farmer is going to be in business much longer? He's going to be very wealthy because there won't be very many peach farmers anymore. And if you really want a peach, it's going to cost you $12 to $20.
Right.
But that's where we're headed.
Right. And we've got this nominal wage increase going up with the minimum wage, and so I sort of, and the change in overtime rules, and so lots of people are saying, well, that'll just increase the number of people who are willing to work in agriculture, but I don't really see that. We've got sort of this finite group of people in California who are willing to do this very difficult work, and that's not increasing. So you see a lot of farmers now are expanding into H-2A and bringing in foreign workers under the H-2A program because they simply can't get enough people who are willing to do this kind of work. Again, like I said, it's
very labor intensive.
It's very difficult work, and so you've got people who are now being forced to bring in foreign labor under the H-2A program, and there's all sorts of tinkering that they talk about at the federal level on what they're going to do with H-2A, and nothing seems to really ever get done. There's lots of talk, but not a lot of action, and that's a federal issue.
Wow.
But then you also see lots of agriculture looking at ways to mechanize. Other ways to pick different
Robotics.
things
Different
via
things, yeah.
machines and robotics.
Machines,
and
yeah.
so there's lots and lots of advancements in mechanization so that people can still operate their farms with fewer people, because it's harder and harder and harder to get people. And with this increase in the wage, it's going to be $15 an hour, but if we're all fighting over that same small little group of people who are willing to do this work, and you're paying $15 an hour, and I want to get those employees, I'm going to pay $15.25, and then you're going to say, well, I'll pay $15.50. And so we're really going to see this artificial increase
I
in
think
the
it's
minimum
happening
wage.
probably now.
It is.
It is.
It is.
It's
And so
happening now. They're battling for employees.
You're seeing this sort of this artificial push up of the minimum wage beyond what's getting required by the state, just because, again, we've got this finite group of people that everybody's sort of fighting over and saying, I need people, and so I've got to pay more and pay more and pay more. So
and I can see it. And the World Ag Expo just wrapped up last week, and you saw a lot of robotics and a lot of technology.
Yeah.
And because it's highly needed, but at the same time, at a major cost.
Right. Very expensive.
Very expensive. And what does it pay off? And again, you get in that quandrum where you're trying to figure out, what do we do? Do we sell it off?
Right.
Do we sell off the property? Do we end the business and let it be a development?
Right. Yeah.
Do we seal the ground because we don't have the water?
Right.
We don't have the employees. What do we do?
Yeah.
And then this doesn't help.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there making very difficult decisions about what am I going to do in the future? Are my kids going to want to deal with this? If you've got kids at Fresno State or at Cal Poly who are looking to become farmers, or is that something that they're going to want to do in the future? We don't know. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge.
Patrick, Moody, how do they give your website if someone's listening and they want to find out more information? Where do they find details?
We are theemployerslawfirm.com. Theemployerslawfirm.com.
Perfect. And that's Barsamian
and Moody.
And Moody.
That's
Did
me.
I got the first name right?
You did.
I finally got it close.
Pretty close on that one. Yeah, really.
We'll
good.
be right back. We're talking about labor and wage laws and everything to do, especially in ag, but in business in general here in California. Patrick Moody in studio here on Business Leaders Live. I'm Lance CARDOZA. Don't go away. More to come right here. Facebook Live. If you have any questions or anything, make sure place it on there. David Suarez, our producer in the background, Woody over there on the buttons. And Woody just presses all kinds of buttons. I don't know what he does over there. He just presses buttons. And he's always waving at me.
Yes, I know Keith. Yeah.
Oh, Keith is on there?
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
He's on Facebook.
I do remember Keith. Yeah,
you remember Keith?
I do. Yeah.
Say hi to Keith.
Hello, Keith. It's been a long time since I've talked to Keith. It's been a very long time. Yeah. Good guy.
Ever since he got out of jail?
Right, exactly. Yeah. But Keith is a prime example of one of the perks of representing farmers is they bring you produce and fruit and whatnot. Every time I go visit a client, I come back with something. And Keith used to bring us stuff to the office. And so he I remember one time he brought in a couple of great big bushels of onions and stunk up the whole office. So, yeah.
Did you send him a bill before that?
We should have sent him a bill for the stink of the onions. But yeah, that's one of the perks of representing farmers in California. You get lots of produce and vegetables and fruit.
Patrick, I think you might show up at the office and Keith is probably right now loading a box up.
Right, yeah. I'm going to have onions in the office today. So yeah.
He's in there now.
That's funny.
Good stuff. So, and again, for our Facebook Live viewers, the website to find out more information.
Theemployerslawfirm.com. Theemployerslawfirm.com.
Perfect. Oh, it is on the screen too.
So there we go. You're right.
On the lower third of the screen there. And so just in case, maybe they're not watching their phone.
Right. Got to hear it.
Yeah. They got to hear it. So we'll talk about also to the retirement.
Yeah, the Cal Savers.
Cal Savers.
Yeah.
So we'll get into Cal Savers and then and talk about that and what that means too, because I think there's if you don't,
it's a mandatory. Yeah, if you don't have some sort of other retirement plan, a 401k, a SEP IRA, Roth IRA, whatever you have, for your employees, if you don't have that, you are going to be required to register for this, and your employees are going to be automatically enrolled into
a state program.
It's a state Roth IRA.
Got it. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a mandatory thing, and first enrollment for largest employers 100 and above is July 1 of this year, right?
Okay.
Yeah, June 30. Yeah, June 30th. So
Okay. And it's called Cal Savers.
Cal Savers.
Okay.
Cal Savers. Yeah. It's been around for a while, and they're finally just now
Mandating.
Yeah.
Making it.
Yeah. I think we first signed by Governor Brown in 2016, so it's been around for a number of years. But
Okay.
Giving you the inside story of business leaders in the Valley and beyond. This is Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza.
Hello, everybody. Back in studio here at Talk Radio 1680 KGED. Sitting here with Patrick Moody from Barsamian and Moody and the law firm, and they're helping businesses with labor law and a lot of the changes that we've been talking about on this episode of Business Leaders Live. If you're a business owner or an employee, it's good information to know that 2020, there's a lot of new things in effect. As every year, it seems like, Patrick, there's new policy after bill. Every
January 1, there's a whole deluge of new things you have to be aware of and be ready to comply with. Yeah.
One of the things that was interesting to me, but was, as you said during the break, if you watch our Facebook Live, you'll catch us having discussions during the commercial break, but Cal Savers. And Cal Savers is something that's been in place. Governor Brown, you said, signed it into office.
2016 it was first signed, yeah.
And now it's being mandated.
So now it's in play now. Cal Savers is a state mandated retirement program for employers with 5 or more employees who don't have some sort of other retirement plan that they offer to their employees, whether it's a 401k or a Roth IRA, a SEP IRA, or something like that. If you don't have some sort of other employer-provided retirement benefit, this bill that created Cal Savers says that you're going to have to enroll in this. The state will send you some sort of a notice that says you must enroll, and you go onto their website, and there's a questionnaire you fill out, and you enroll in the program. If you have 100 or more employees, your registration deadline is June 30 of this year. So June 30 of 2020, if you have 100 or more employees and you don't offer some sort of other retirement plan, you're going to have to register, and then your employees are automatically enrolled in this IRA plan.
And what was it? So if your employees of 5 or over? 5
or over, right.
Okay.
And so, again, the first registration deadline is this year, June 30, for 100 or more. Next year, June 30, if you have 50 to 99 employees, you have to register. And then the following year, if you have 5 to 49 employees, you have to register. So a 3-year step program of when you have to register. But once you've registered and you're in the Cal Savers program, your employees are automatically enrolled. You have to upload a list of your employees, and then they're automatically enrolled in this program, and you have to remove 5% of their pay and submit it to the state through this IRA that they have through Cal Savers. And
sounds like a great incentive for employees that maybe won't put it in place.
The idea is to sort of force people to start saving for retirement that otherwise have not done so. Yeah. And so I can see the benefit of that. Employees have the option to opt out if they want to, but they have to proactively opt out. You're automatically enrolled, and then if you don't want to participate, you can opt yourself out as an employee, and you would have to go onto the website or somehow opt yourself out. And like I say, it starts off at 5% of your income. It goes into this. It's a payroll deduction, and it gets submitted to the state, and then each year for 3 years it increases up to 8%. You can, if you're an employee, choose a different percentage. So you can say, I want to do 2%, or I want to do 1%, or I want to do 4%. Yeah. If you want to do something less than this, and then it's just like I say, it's just like any other payroll deduction that comes out of your paycheck if you're the employee, and if you're the employer, it's just one more deduction that you would have to take if you're enrolled in this program.
And that's Cal Savers.
Cal Savers. It's called.
And who manages that money? The state?
The state.
Scary.
Right. Yeah. So I was just at a presentation. I was speaking at a conference, and the person before me was a gentleman from the state who was with the Cal Savers program, and they were touting the fact that they've got almost $2 million so far into the
CalSavers
program.
program,
Yeah. So you could have registered last year in 2019. Employers could have registered and started enrolling people. The things coming up are deadlines. You have to do it by then, but it opened last year, and you could start doing it. And they've got about $2 million in their kitty so far that they're investing and managing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It sounds good for the part of the education process to tell people you need to save,
Right.
and plan for your retirement. The scary part is our state is running it, but I know with CalPERS
is a well-run program.
Well-run program,
Yep.
and great if you're a CHP officer, a state employee. It's a great program, great retirement.
They have the ability to do something like that well. If they do that like this, and it's it's run like the CalPERS, which is a good retirement plan.
Yeah.
If it's run like that, then great. Right?
It could be really beneficial to the employees, and a cost to a business owner. Is there a cost involved with it?
No cost to the business owner. There's no setup fee. There's no maintenance fee. There's no fiduciary responsibility to the employer. If the fund implodes and they lose all their money, the employer's not responsible. The only thing that I would caution employers about is don't offer investment advice to your employees. Don't tell them, hey, you should
do it, you shouldn't. This is just your option.
Yeah. So when you get into the program, they have various funds that you can invest in. So you get to choose an array of funds where you can invest your money, and you get to decide how it's allocated. Absolutely do not tell your employees how to allocate their funds, because once you've done that step, if you're telling them how to do that, now you might be creating fiduciary responsibility because you've told them how to do it.
Yeah, there's liability involved with
could
that.
be. Yeah.
Could be.
So, but yeah, in terms of the setup, there's no fee. There's nothing. All you have to do is upload the list of employees that you currently have when you hit your registration deadline, if you don't do it before, and then you'll have to update it as people come online. You hire new people, then they have to get enrolled within 30 days, and you'll have to upload that information to the state website.
And that's the CalSavers program. So business owners out there listening, that's something you need to keep in mind with the
Right.
CalSavers. And the deadline for that is January 30th.
For large employers, 100 or more, January 30th this year, and then January 30th the following 2 years. So mid-size employers next year, small employers the following year.
And small employers go all the way down to 5 employees up to 49.
To 49.
49
right. Exactly.
employees.
Yep.
So, and anybody listening to the radio here on Talk Radio 1680 KGED, Business Leaders Live every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., Patrick Moody in studio talking about labor laws. They can go to your website, Patrick, one more time for people on Facebook. You can see it. It'll be on the screen, and you'll be able to go there. But for people, listeners here on the radio.
TheEmployersLawFirm.com. That's us.
EmployersLawFirm.com. And you can be able to get in contact with them, ask any questions, and
Absolutely.
be able to figure out what you need to do with your business to be prepared.
Yes.
As you get into 2021. Because I'll tell you, 2021 and 22, there's going to be more coming down the pike. You always got to be prepared.
Every January 1st, our legislature has enacted lots of new laws, and most of them, come online on the first of the year. There's some that are mid-year, but usually it's January 1. So, as you get toward the end of the year, our firm puts out lots of newsletters and information, and I speak all over the place to all kinds of organizations, and we put out newsletters to all sorts of different organizations. But as you get toward the end of the year, if you're an employer, you want to start thinking about, what do I got to do? What am I facing January 1? Because there's something coming. Always.
There's something coming. So business owners out there, you got to be paying attention and know that Barsamian and Moody is a great place to go talk to. Patrick, how did you meet? Is it Rod?
Ron Barsamian.
Ron. So how did you meet Ron, and how did you guys form the organization?
Well, like I say, Ron was an in-house attorney at Western Growers Association, and Western Growers, obviously, is a large trade organization. It represents the ag industry, and they used to have an in-house firm. And one of the special features, if you were a member of Western Growers, is you had access to the in-house law firm for free. And the idea was they didn't want anybody to have to succumb to the United Farm Workers and sign a contract with the United Farm Workers Union because they couldn't afford to fight the union organization campaign. So Western Growers said, we've got this group of skilled ag attorneys, and we're gonna make them available to all our members and fight the UFW. And so my partner Ron was, he's a Valley guy and grew up in Yedem, the only
I was
Armenian,
just out there.
only Armenian named town outside of Armenia.
I was taking a drive with Mom on Sunday and just took her for a little drive out there, and we pulled up and she looked on the map and she goes, "Where is this?" Yedem. And there was a big church.
Just the church. It was a great church.
And I looked it up and went, this is an Armenian church. So I was thinking a lot of farmers in the area.
So there were lots of Armenian farmers, and the church there is designed after Holy Trinity, which is in downtown Fresno. And so there were lots of Armenian farmers and lots of Japanese farmers out there. And so Ron's parents were tomato growers. And so he sort of grew up in ag and worked on the family farm, and they had grapes as well, but mostly tomatoes and vine ripened, real vine ripened tomatoes. The old style tomatoes, right? And he loves to tell stories about the tomatoes. And and then so he grew up wanting to represent ag employers. So went to law school with that mentality, and got out of law school and it was immediately hired by Western Growers. And so he was in-house at Western Growers for a number of years, and then came to private practice in Fresno. And he was a partner in the firm that I originally was hired, and I was hired by his partner. And then within a couple of years, that firm sort of had a shake-up, and Ron had a couple guys who were his ag team, and so they were going to form their own firm. And I had done some work with Ron in the couple of years after I'd gotten hired, and so I was invited to come along, and so Ron and I've been together for 28 years now.
28 years.
28 years. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. It's funny how life takes its turns and gets through, and you see the passion for ag,
right? Because
one of your teammates, you grew up in ag country,
right?
And then all of a sudden now he comes on, and the love of a farmer, and you're being able to help them get through the process of labor law.
Yeah.
We're going to talk more about labor law. I'm going to talk about some of the focus of how farmers not only are being courted to get out of the state, and businesses being constantly courted to get out of the state, and they're dealing with these challenges of the labor law, but some farmers, and I heard a lot of this chatter at the World Ag Expo, talking about different crops and different ways. Anybody has a greenhouse, we talked a little bit about it before the show, or they're growing cannabis. They're in the hemp business. Right. And hemp a lot of times thinks, it's marijuana. Hemp is clothing and many, many, many products that come from hemp. So a lot of farmers are looking at that to diversify their future and what they're doing. We'll be right back with Business Leaders Live. I'm Lance Cardoza. Got Patrick Moody in studio right here at Talk Radio 1680 KGED. Thank you, everybody, at Facebook Live. Patrick Moody, great guest.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Good stuff. A lot of stuff I think businesses dread to hear and talk about, but it's great when you can be a fly on the wall and listen here at Facebook Live. They can listen on the radio and sort of get a heads up for the future. Like, what do I need to really plan for?
There's always so much. It's interesting, I think, in that California is one of the very few states that has a full-time state legislature. Most states don't. And if you're from California, you don't realize that, you might go to, one of these states back in the Southeast that has a legislature that meets for 3 months a year, and that's it. They don't have full-time state legislators. These people have real jobs, and they run a business, or they're an employee somewhere, and they do something, and then they, for a couple months they run off to the state capitol and they do a couple things, then they go back and they do their real job.
Get to work.
We don't have that in California. We have so full-time legislature.
And so they're busybodies trying to figure out.
they have to justify, government a lot of times has to justify its existence by what it does. And if you're a state legislature, you justify your existence by writing legislation, and it's amazing the amount of things that get written and submitted. Not everything gets passed, obviously, but they have just this machine writing out bill after bill after bill after bill, and a lot of them do get passed. So.
And that's why I tell people all the time too, is when you're upset with the political climate and someone's in office that isn't making the decisions that's better for your business, it's our fault. Right. It's our fault as the American people you need to vote. You need to rise up and find the right people. The tough part is to put a politician that's not a career politician in position, because anybody with the right mind, and not all politicians, but anybody that's in business and decides to get into that ring and that field and put their hat in the ring, they want out as soon as they get in. Many of them, because the climate is toxic at times, and it's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. So I applaud those politicians, even the ones that are career politicians that are fighting for the good of business to increase employment for people, and also help businesses thrive. And it's a fine juggle. And when your job is on the legislation to sit there and write bills all day, like you said, you have to justify your existence, and you get to do business. So you're doing business, but sometimes it's the ripple effect. When you decide to pack up and leave your legislation job and the state you left in shambles, it's one of the big differences here than we have in other states. Again, is we have career politicians who've never had a job, running a business. They don't budget. They don't have employees. They don't have to deal with any of these laws that they pass because they're exempt. The state's exempt from all these things, and so they don't ever have to deal with any of this stuff. So it's tough. Yeah. Wow. What was it? Less than a minute. Okay, we got time.
Yeah, and particularly when you have complete one-party rule in California, it's tough to, if you're the conservative voice, from the Central Valley, for example, and you want to go and advocate for farmers, it's tough to go in because you're really fighting the uphill battle, right? It's you're dealing with people from San Francisco or LA who think fruits and vegetables come from the grocery store, and so it's tough. That's very tough.
Yeah. 30 seconds. We'll be right back. Make sure you turn your radio to 1680 AM if you're getting away from your phone. And thank you for joining us here at Facebook Live every week, Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Mark your calendar. Good stuff here with Business Leaders Live.
You are listening to Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza, the behind-the-scenes story of the business shakers and movers in the Valley and beyond. Once again, here's Lance Cardoza.
Welcome back, everybody, in studios here at Talk Radio 1680 KGED. Patrick Moody joining me here in studio and talking about, Patrick, you grew up in the Midwest. We talked about going to school in Florida. Then you ended up going out on vacation in San Diego. And you fell in love with the Golden State.
It's hard not to like San Diego, particularly in the mid-'80s. It was pretty perfect in San Diego.
Pretty nice. It's a little strange these days. It's
a little bigger now.
It's a little bigger now. It's bigger. You made your way to Fresno. We didn't even talk about that. How did you get to Fresno to meet to get into law?
It was a job opportunity. Got out of law school and had an opportunity to it's a kind of a long story I won't get into, but I had an opportunity to come to Fresno and work with this firm, and it seemed like a great opportunity, and I thought, here's a great opportunity in Fresno where you can, maybe I'll be able to buy a house in a few years, and that wasn't realistic in San Diego.
It wasn't realistic. Yeah.
So
you'll be able to have a life and a family and do what you need to do.
And it's turned out I love Fresno. I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else. We talked a little bit. I've sort of lived all over, but I've lived here longer than anywhere else, and so I like Fresno. I think Fresno's a great place.
So your law firm, Barsamian and Moody, they really work with a lot of ag clients, business clients, and preparing them for labor law. And really in 2020, a lot of new things that we've been talking about on the show Business Leaders Live here. One of the things before the break, and it was a topic at World Ag Expo, farmers that are planning to diversify. And you mentioned before the show, anybody has a greenhouse out there today that maybe had flowers or something in their greenhouse have either leased out their greenhouses or have moved towards cannabis and growing cannabis. But there's several challenges in that field still today as a farmer is looked at maybe getting into hemp, which hemp's used many products. And you deal with the farmers, so you know more, but I know clothing and many products
hemp could be used for just anything that you could use cotton for, and I certainly don't want to offend our cotton farmers, but anything you can use cotton for, you can use hemp for, basically. And
my family was cotton farmers, Carreros, and I know they're probably going, don't talk about hemp. but it is a product that's out there that farmers are really looking at.
There's a lot of people looking at hemp as a crop that they can grow in California, and obviously cannabis is a huge growth industry. Since it was legalized for personal use in California, we've seen just an explosion of cannabis operations, lots and lots and lots of companies getting into it, and dispensaries going up. And so you've got the growing side, you've got the manufacturing side into the different cannabis products, and then you've got the distribution side in the dispensaries. And so it's a booming industry. Lots of cannabis is grown indoors. And so, if you had a greenhouse or whatnot, you can, lots of them have been sold for cannabis operations. And so, same thing with hemp, it's just sort of an explosion where they're able to, use that for so many different things. And so it's an ability to look at something that's a little less employee, labor intensive, where they can still make money on this product using less employees. And so that you also see that in terms of other things where you've got people getting out of row crops, or the wine grapes, or not necessarily wine grapes, but raisins, table grapes, where people are pulling those out and putting in pistachios or almonds or citrus. But really, a lot of the nuts are really taking off walnuts. A number of years ago, everybody was selling off their walnut trees for the burls to make wood products out of the walnut burls.
Or replanting it for almond and waiting for the yield to come. Yeah.
But now we're seeing people are replanting walnuts, and so we're seeing sort of a reemergence of walnuts. And so
big overseas, right? So I know almonds overseas is really big.
Almonds are huge overseas. You've got places. You have. I just heard a story recently about the almonds in India, where in the public school system in India, they provide almonds to the kids. They give them a certain number of almonds each day as part of a snack program in the Indian public schools. And so you got these kids go to school to get these almonds, and they're like, "Oh, Mom, I like these almonds. Go buy me some almonds at the store," right? And so there's a huge export of California almonds to India.
And I'm sure walnuts are following that also too, and coming up through the ranks.
Yeah,
it's a tough world out there being in business. There's so many different directions, and as a farmer, and we talked about legacy, and even your partner, talking about with Ron too, as farmers growing up and having other family farms, and seeing that world to where it is today. It's a tough business, not only to be in agriculture, but really tough, but just in any business in California.
Right.
So the best thing and the best advice is always be prepared.
Right.
And be prepared as you would as a business, and try to figure out how you don't have to charge $12 for a peach,
right?
Because your consumer isn't going to go there.
Right.
So how do you prepare and plan? And a lot of times you start with partners like your partner Rod and yourself, Patrick, that you guys can go in and come to the table and say, "Help me."
Right.
Help me be prepared and help me grow this business. And that's what you folks do. And how do they find you one more time? To your website? Anybody's just tuned in, it's looking at labor laws. You can be an employee and also be looking for information.
There's lots of info out there. We're Barsamian and Moody. We're on the web at theemployerslawfirm.com. You can call us in Fresno, 559-248-2360. We're pretty easy to find. You can Google my name and I come up. So
and you come up
pretty easy to find. Yeah, pretty easy to find.
I always like to do it on my show. I love bringing business leaders. We talk about the trials, tribulations, how you got to where you are today, and tell their story. One of the things I like to do is to where if someone sees Patrick Moody and wants to have the opportunity to just have some dialogue with you and find out something about you, something that maybe someone doesn't know, that's a hobby of yours, or something you like to do, or when you grew up, it was something funny that you always knew you were going to be an attorney.
That's what I said.
But is there something out there that maybe not everybody knows about Patrick Moody?
Well, I love to ride motorcycles. I've ridden motorcycles my whole life. I had a brother who was 4 years older than me. My dad bought us a little mini bike like every father did in the Midwest. We had a little Honda Trail 70. And I was 5 years old or whatever. And so I've ridden all over, and I just recently completed a trip through Europe on a motorcycle. So
very
cool. A lot of fun. Yeah, a lot of fun. 6 countries and 10 days, and so it was fun. Yeah.
Wow. So I love stories like that, because if you're sitting across a room, or you're at a service club or somewhere where you see Patrick Moody, and you love motorcycles, you know someone that does too. Go over and shake his hand and say hi and introduce yourself.
Exactly.
And do more business, because that's what it's all about. Patrick, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thanks,
I really appreciate it. And labor laws, and we'll make sure we follow up on some of those laws as the years come, right here on Business Leaders Live. Every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., please join me right here on Talk Radio 1680 KGED. You can catch this episode and other episodes by going to LanceCardoza.com. Thanks again. Have a good week, and do more business right here at Business Leaders Live.